Can you hear that gasping in the background? That's the sound of another multi-million-dollar whale being choked out by a poker pro and taking all their money. Because Dan Jungleman Cates just took Monarch for $15 million the other day in a 3-day session where they played a lot. Monarch actually lost even more than that. He lost $19 million over the 3 days because he played a few other people too. This is crazy, Grant. Grant, how can this much money be changing hands? This is Dan Jungleman Cates, one of the great players, maybe of all time, playing up against a guy no one's ever heard of. What are your thoughts?
I mean, Monarch is not forging new ground here. He is walking upon now old path that an old deer had made, Andy Beal, who famously fought the corporation in super high stakes limit hold'em. The corporation being, the old school pros, including Phil Ivey, who did the most damage, and apparently Todd Brunson did pretty well too. Doyle was part of this deal, where they all pooled their money to play this guy for 10K, 20K, limit hold'em, up to 100K, 200K sometimes. I think they changed the stakes throughout the game. And they took him for $16.6 million. So he took a similar loss that what Monarch took. So the interesting thing about these things that's happening here is these rich guys are like, I want to take a ton of money and make it so it's enough money that it's scary and play against the best players in the world and see if they can handle it. That's like what Monarch was doing. That's what Andy Beal was doing, which is an interesting thing. And I don't think I would do. I'm gonna say that. I think I could just give them money if I wanted them to have money. Like, I know I'm gonna lose to Jungleman. Why do I have to embarrass myself in the process?
In theory, this is your edge, right? Jungleman's edge is that he is incredible at poker, and your edge is that you have no fear at all of losing money in any way at all, so you can make the craziest plays possible. You don't have to have logic. You don't have to have anything. You can just call because you feel like calling because it doesn't really matter. Where he is going to care more if the money is meaningful enough to him. That, in theory, is the hammer you should be able to swing back. That's what Andy Beal was trying to do. But in this case, certainly in the corporation's case, the pros just farm out the money, right? They just make it so their investments aren't as the stakes aren't as high for them, and then it's not as big a deal, and then you can't wield that hammer. Right,
you have to make it to the point where they're not making optimal decisions, because if the money is not going to affect them mentally and they're going to play the same poker that they would play at 10% the stakes, then you're screwed. You're just going to lose over time. I mean, if you play few enough hands, maybe there's enough variance that you can win sometimes. But you're pretty screwed in that case if they're not going to care about the money. So it got me thinking a little bit, because obviously Beal tried this, it didn't work. Monarch tried this, it didn't work. Those are the two known cases of this type of behavior by a rich guy. It got me thinking, like, if we won what is now the $1.7 billion Powerball, let's say, and for whatever reason we decided, who needs more money? High stakes poker pros who are like, they need more money. So I'm going to challenge them to a heads up match where I am just drawing dead from a poker theory perspective. Let's say I decided I wanted to do that for some reason because I had nothing else to live for, and this is the last thing that I'm going to do. I don't know why. Like, I can't think of a reason why I would do that even if I won the $1.7 billion and had it in my pocket. Let's say it's $800 million after taxes, whatever. I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to go find Alex Foxen and make him a last longer bet in every Triton that he plays. That seems like a fun idea to me. Let's do that for $1 million each time. Like, I'm not going to do that. But let's assume that I want to challenge myself in that way. I think the interesting part of that is if we're the rich guy in this scenario, if we're Monarch or we're Andy Beal, and we can get the pros to agree to our terms, what can we do to advantage ourselves in this spot? Because obviously the corporation pooling their money and Jungleman only playing for 10% of himself, that hurts us. Can we outlaw that? Like, how do we do this so that we actually have the edge that we think we can based on the money? Because that's our only edge.
Yeah, like, you can't. The fact that it's all your money and it isn't the pros' money, because like Grant, you had said to me before we started, you thought Jungleman supposedly only had 10% of himself with this. Right? If that's the case, you can see how the stakes aren't. I mean, it's still relatively freaking big, but for Jungleman, it's more normalized. That's the kind of stakes he is used to playing, stakes at least in that general neighborhood, as opposed to like they played an $8 million pot, right? Like Jungleman's never played a pot like that where it's all his money in his life. So if there was if we could actually get them to agree and we could somehow find a way to enforce it, I think them playing truly with their own money for reals is the only obvious thing we could do. Like, if it's Jungleman's actual house is on the line and not his backers, 4% of his backers' portfolio or something is on the line instead, Jungleman might feel a little different about some of these calls that he gets to make or some of these plays where he's like, geez, this is kind of risky, man. But right now, he just gets to play as Machine Man. He gets to just go into computer mode and play his best possible poker, which we have no chance against if we're Monarch or Andy Beal or almost any human being in the world, by the way. So why would we ever do anything to give him that ability to do that? We have to try and take that away. I still can't believe Andy Beal agreed to let the corporation act as the corporation.
Yeah.
I don't really get it.
It's also hard to actually enforce this money thing. Like, you could still do secret deals if you're Jungleman. So I think the way to do it is you have to have it be a tournament format, a winner-take-all tournament format where, like, hey, if you win Jungleman, I'll give you $15 million. But if I win, I get to amputate your foot. There's no way out of that. I get to take a piece of your body off of your body. And that, let's see if you can play normal that way. Like,
okay. All right. That's
go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. That would also be great for the clicks. I would watch that heads-up match. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I'm interested in watching that.
Would you watch the televised amputation?
I imagine it wouldn't be that bloody because they would be careful of what they showed, what they wouldn't. So yeah, I'd watch it. I wouldn't want to see all of it.
Yeah,
but I'd want to see the beginnings of it. Also, levels of anesthesia could be an interesting piece to this as well. But either way. No, that's interesting for sure. It's weird because on one level, maybe it's that these guys who have all this money want to feel something themselves, right? They actually want to play at these stakes. We're assuming it's to put the pros, so the pros feel something. But maybe it's so that we're playing this high so that way I have something to feel like.
Well, then why don't they could find other whales to play against who would have all of themselves that just wouldn't be the same type of challenge, right?
I agree.
You could go find Paul Fua and challenge him to heads up for $15 million. And
it's always
fine.
Paul Fua with you. Always Paul Fua.
He's just the rich guy that comes to mind who plays a lot of poker.
Yeah, he does. Monarch lost $19 million and tweeted about it the next day and just literally wrote, LOL, ripped 19 million. Oh, well, worth it for the content. Now, I assume he doesn't really think it was worth it for the content, but the fact that anyone could lose $19 million playing poker, so they just elected to do this against one of the best players in the world, and then tweet that way, it means he's got a lot of money, I guess. But maybe he's not even feeling it at that level. Maybe that's not enough to feel something. How much has to be on the line for Monarch for his blood to start pumping a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think you hit it right. Like, obviously my amputation thing was facetious, but you have to somehow force the pro to actually play for their own amount of money that is equal to the amount of money that you're playing for. And, Jungleman might not have $15 million to lose. Probably doesn't anyway. So
I assume he doesn't. I don't know. But
so, if you're putting their life on the line essentially with that. But again, there's no way to enforce it. So I don't know. It seems like it's just a bad idea to be this rich guy and do this. It just feels like a bad idea.
The whole thing kind of sucks, honestly. Like, if Jungleman had the $15 million to lose, he would put it up, right? Because he would want all of himself against a guy like Monarch if he could have it. But instead, he's trying to, and I don't know, by the way, I don't know the deal, anything about his deal or not deal with his backers, but he's probably either free rolling or if he has 10% of himself, he probably has 10% but wins a higher percentage. There's some aspect of a free roll in here, almost certainly, a markup, right, with his backers, certainly in this spot. There's got to be. So, he's getting paid extra even to do this because he's so good. And, on one level, good for him. But on another level, the fact that there's any level of free roll in it for him makes it even easier for him to say yes to these things. When I want it to be harder to say yes. I want it to be like that moment when the guy really gets upset at the table because they don't know what to do anymore because they raised and now they've been re-raised and they had a hand that was worth raising and they don't know what to do because, oh my God, are they actually up against the nuts? What the hell? And they're not the kind of person who's like, I don't care, I call. It's that moment where everything's on the line for them, that feeling, right? And that is something that's one of poker's one of the rare places where you get to have that experience. And I think we should be giving that to more people, not less.
Okay. Well, my takeaway is I'm not gonna challenge the high stakes pros to heads up.
Oh, my takeaway is that I'm going to offer for my foot on one side for $15 million on the other, and I will play Monarch for my foot. Okay. Monarch, it's been issued. The challenge has been issued.
Foot for $15 million?
I get to pick the foot. I get to pick the foot. They're both
Which foot?
working though. There's not like, I think I'm going to go left.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a righty, so
Yeah.
I'll probably just cut off the left foot. They both matter a lot though.
However, they do.
You know, robot feet are coming soon, right? Who
Of
are we
course.
kidding? So
It's-
it's going to be an upgrade anyway.
No problem. Elon's working
I'm going
on
to
it.
play like a madman.
Tired of being tired of being sick. In my head 24/7, how I'm supposed to pay the rent. Mr. Practice, I don't play. Friday nights we on the bench. Trying to come up with a play. If it don't work, then hit a lick. So if knocking at my door,